like an now you from Africa.
I'm from Africa, you from Africa, you African booty scratcher.
First thing I'd like to ask you, just take about 10 seconds or so, what is a Pan-Africanist?
Pan-Africanist is someone who believes that all African people irrespective of culture, language, religion, class, or nationality, are members of one human family. And that they should primarily identify themselves as members of that human family before they identify themselves as members of any other group, religious, secular, or otherwise. So we believe that being African is more important and should take precedence over being Christian, Muslim, a Greek, a Mason, or anything else. And the second tenet of Pan-Africanism is that we have an international responsibility to work together in order to collectively improve the conditions under which African people live. Pan-Africanism posits that we can't really rise as separate groups. We have to rise as one because our conditions are so intimately linked in with one another that you can't possibly realize success on the regional or national level without working with the whole international African family.
Amazing. And so does that include white people too who are born and raised in Africa?
Got him!
Okay, no. Pan-Africanism believes in self-reliance. And so when we talk about Pan-Africanism, we're talking about a self-reliant movement of African peoples. Solving their own problems, which is no different than what other groups within the human family do. European Jews primarily work with European Jews. Arabs work with Arabs. These Indians primarily work amongst themselves.
Tell us something we don't know, motherfucker.
So if we look at the way in which most cultures operate, they operate with a degree of exclusivity. And as African people, we reserve the right to also be exclusive.
What? Slap! Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Fellow citizens of Africa, I greet you in the name of the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League of the World. You may ask, what organization is that? It is for me to inform you that the Universal Negro Improvement Association is an organization that seeks to unite into one solid body the 400 million Negroes of the world. And we believe that the time has come to unite these 400 million people for the one common purpose of bettering their condition. And it is for this purpose that we are asking you to join our ranks and to do the best you can to help us to bring about an emancipated race.
One of the key problems, and it came out in the 5th Pan-African Congress.
But before we do that, let's take a look at the first Pan-African Conference that was held in London in 1900. You know, this right here, as you can see on the screen, is a letter that was sent out to all of our so-called leaders of the African Association. And basically, This all was founded by this dude named Henry Sylvester Williams, who started the African Association. But check this, he's not even from Africa. He's from Trinidad, as you can see. This guy basically went to school in North America and then subsequently went to school in Britain, and that's where he formed the African Association. He didn't form the African Association in Africa. He didn't form it in America. He formed it in Britain. And this is where pretty much everything started. But it transpired beforehand with W.E.B. Du Bois. Because W.E.B. Du Bois was the person that led us until he was the first Negro to be taught by white people. First so-called Negro to be taught by white people. And as you can see, man, he basically made a lot of different alliances. He is given credit to being the father of Pan-Africanism. As you're going to see, by the time we finish this video, y'all going to get a clear understanding of exactly what transpired with these people and why we in the situation that we in. You know, we know all of the truth that's being told, but the thing about it is it's being hidden. But this information right here about who these people are is cut and dry. So it should never be an issue, and we should never have to sit down and argue with our own people about this bullshit when we can easily open our eyes and see it. Now this video right here gonna destroy a lot of shit that these Pan-African people want to push out, and we just gonna run with it, man, because the thing about it is we shouldn't have to spend all this time debating with our own people about some shit that was started. It's all political. It's not social or economical. If we were to come together, it would be none of that. It's all political because we're not together.
That we have to rediscover ourselves, find out who we are, what we are, and not who we are told we are. It wasn't until then, that Pan-African Congress, that I saw the way ahead clearly and knew one day all of Africa would be free.
But I cannot see. I'm legally blind. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. I'm innocent.
Come on this way.
The Congress is the dress rehearsal, or the forum in which the leaders of post-colonial Africa make their debut.
Kwame Nkrumah, who went on to become the president of Ghana, Jomo Kenyatta, who became the leader of Kenya, Hastings Banda, who headed an independent Malawi after Nyasaland became independent.
Dr. Nkrumah went out his way to make the Gold Coast what it is today. He endeavored continually to bring us freedom and liberty to Ghana. Ghana is the name, Ghana we wish to proclaim. We will be jolly, merry and gay.
The most striking of all the impressions that I have formed since I left London a month ago is of the strength of this African national consciousness.
When do you want independence for Kenya?
Today.
How soon do you foresee independence in Northern Rhodesia?
Things are moving so fast in Africa that anything between 1 and 2 years.
The issue is political, not social or economic.
Yes, the issue is political, not social or economic. Yes, the issue is political, not social or economic.
The wind of change is blowing through this continent. And whether we like it or not, this growth of national consciousness is a political fact. We must all accept it as a fact. And our national policies must take account of it.
Welcome to the Real News Network. I'm Paul Jay in Baltimore. On February 23rd, it will be the 145th anniversary of the birth of W.E.B. Du Bois. He's been known as the father of the American Civil Rights Movement, the founder of Pan-Africanism, and a figure of both controversy and one of great, you could say, adulation. Now joining us to talk about the life of Du Bois and what he means to us today is Anthony Montero. He's a professor of African American Studies at Temple University in Philadelphia. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, Paul.
So why of many leaders in African American history, there's only a real few that have kind of lasted the century and still remained? It seems so relevant to today. Why is that true of Du Bois?
I think that's so because he contributed on multiple levels to African American struggles and to the transformation of America. He was this great scholar, the first person to get a PhD from Harvard, and he writes his dissertation on the transatlantic slave trade. And then he writes probably the first scientific work of urban sociology, The Philadelphia Negro, and then he goes on to found what is in the 20th century the first civil rights organization, the Niagara Movement. It is this tremendous intellectual and scholarly production that puts him on the map. But then on top of it, he is this unbelievable activist. Everything from civil rights to Pan-Africanism to labor rights and ultimately anti-imperialism and socialism. So he lives 95 years and he's productive for a good part of that time, and he's left a tremendous legacy and made a tremendous impact.
Let me first of all tell viewers, we're going to sometime in the next couple of months really work our way through the history of Du Bois and go through all the big beats of his life. Right now we're just going to focus on a few things in a couple of segments leading up to the anniversary of his birth. So talk about his split with Booker T. Washington and what that was about.
Yeah, that's an important split at the beginning of the 20th century. He really crystallizes it in one of the chapters in his famous book, The Souls of Black Folk. And he differed with Booker Washington on the issue of education, higher education in particular, whether or not the black college elite should be given a liberal education equal to that white elites were getting in the top white universities. But he also differed on the question of whether or not black folk should sacrifice civil rights and voting rights for the promise of support from Northern capital for economic and vocational training in the South.
Yeah, talk a bit about what this was actually codified in something called the Atlanta Compromise, right?
Oh, yeah. The Atlanta Compromise speech, and Du Bois named it that. And it was this grand compromise that Booker T. Washington conceived. He said, look, the nation is not willing to grant us voting rights and civil rights, that is the North and South. We're not prepared to live up to the promise of Reconstruction. So he said, look, let's forget that. The nation needed black labor in the past, and as it industrializes, it will need black labor in the future. And what we must do, and what black leadership must do, is to prepare black people for the coming industrialization and the need for labor that the future held. I always believed, however, that the bargain cost black people too much, that we could not give up civil and political rights, that even if conceivably economic benefit would come from it, we could not defend those economic benefits unless we had the vote, unless we were full citizens, unless we had civil rights.
The Atlanta Compromise had actually accepted segregation as a legitimate thing. That was part of the deal, wasn't it?
And Booker Washington anticipated by about a year the Plessy v. Ferguson decision by the Supreme Court, which legalized and said it was constitutional to separate the races under the fiction of separate and equal. What it actually did, and I think Du Bois anticipated this, was to protect white privilege.
So Du Bois becomes a very public figure, if I understand it correctly, by the early 20th century. He's, you know, amongst a couple of the most well-known African Americans, and he, in fact, I guess next to Booker T. Washington, who he opposes. And is this, in many ways, the roots of the civil rights movement, then?
Oh, yes, it is. Because the path of Booker T. Washington was the path of denying or repudiating the struggle for civil rights, at least for the foreseeable future. The path that Du Bois and his followers adopt is the path of the fight for civil rights. So if, let us say, black folk had chosen in the 20th century, as we went forward, the path of Booker T. Washington, conceivably we would have never had a civil rights movement.
What's a black man got to do to get ahead in this country? Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois were two of the most important leaders of the black community during the late 19th and early 20th century, but don't think these leaders worked hand in hand. Like Adams and Jefferson, MLK and Malcolm X, Professor X and Magneto, their ideas were often opposing, if not adversarial, to each other. Take Booker T. Washington, born into slavery, freed by the 13th Amendment, initially self-taught. He would go on to co-found the Tuskegee Institute that would train African Americans in agriculture and industry and help promote their economic progress. This soon put Washington on the national stage, and many would come, both black and white, to hear him speak, and even resulted in him becoming the first African American invited to the White House. Now, W.E.B. Du Bois, on the other hand, was born after the Civil War in Massachusetts, educated in integrated schools, and would first experience true Jim Crow when he attended the historically black Fisk University in Tennessee. Now, this isn't to say that the North was a bastion of tolerance, as seen at Harvard, where Du Bois would eventually get his doctorate, the first African-American to do so, despite the fact that Harvard refused to accept his Fisk degree or let him stay on campus after 6 p.m. Du Bois went on to publish many works on the current and future state of African-Americans, and even co-founded the NAACP. So, why do Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois matter? Washington and Du Bois both had their own plans for how blacks should achieve success in America. Washington proposed that African Americans' primary concern should be achieving independence through learning trades. Addressed in what's known as his Atlanta Compromise speech, he urged blacks to postpone battles for equal political rights and instead focus on economic security. He advocated for the temporary allowance of segregation and admittedly lower political status for blacks that would ideally lead to peaceful acceptance in American society. While this position might be seen as pragmatic, especially in the post-Reconstruction Jim Crow South, to many it reeked of accommodation. W.E.B. Du Bois was certainly in that camp. He felt that the submission to any denial of rights was unacceptable. He felt that civil rights and higher education were uncompromisingly critical to the success of African Americans, and spoke of the talented 10th, a small segment of the black population that would lead the way to true political, social, and economic equality. Addressing the advancement of African Americans and Washington's philosophies, Du Bois would say this: that the way for a people to gain respect is not by continually belittling and ridiculing themselves, and that the way for a people to gain their reasonable rights is not by voluntarily throwing them away and insisting that they do not want them. And that is why Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois matter.
Let's take a look at this Fisk University for a second. You may have noticed while watching the video that Fisk University, this was the first university that W.E.B. Du Bois had attended before going to school with the Europeans at Harvard. At Fisk University, basically it was established by the same people. as you're going to see in a second. It was established in 1866. But right here you see affiliations. It's a United Church of Christ. Historically related. And it's a very good reason why. Okay. Because it was established by, it wasn't really established by this guy, but it was named after Clinton B. Fisk. But he was a leader and a member of what they call the American Missionary Association. Now you probably heard AME, American Missionary Episcopal Church. You probably heard AMA sometimes, but that's what they are. They are missionaries. They are American missionaries. Now, you got the American Missionary Association. It said it was formed in 1846. But basically, long story short, the American missionary people, most of them from the original part, they was all included in slavery. Now, you have these people claiming to be abolitionists for slavery or whatever. Now, that happened in 1846, so-called. But the thing about it is that all of their members, when you go back and look, because it was about 5 different ones. They had a Mending Mission group. They had people that was in Sierra Leone trying to go out there and educate the Africans also. They was trying to go out there because if you really do history and you really do research, you're going to understand that they was here in America, and what they knew about America, they knew first. They knew more about America than what they knew about Africa. They didn't get into the southern part of Africa until the 15th century. They was already in the Americas, okay? And really, they didn't start their expeditions and most of their exploration of Africa until the mid-1800s, you know? They only got on the western coast, and that was in the 1800s. And this will be speculation. I'm gonna do some research, but if y'all can, I encourage y'all to go and do some research on this. But the people that was on the Amistad captives, these people, basically it was 53 people that was captured on the southern western coast of Sierra Leone. But these people was captured and was attempted to be brought over here. But basically what happened was 53 of these people had sense enough to capture the crew and steal the boat because they outnumbered them and they overpowered them. Now, 53 people can do this, and this right here, so-called would be they call it like a coincidence or a rebellion or whatever. But for what reason is that this is the only thing you have evidence of, an attempt to try to take people. You don't have no proof of taking nobody, but you have an attempt to try to take people. Now, these people basically was trying to, from my perspective and from what I know about history and what I've learned, it seems as if these white European settlers had got power hungry, and they had just got some settlement amongst the people right here. They had just finally got them a piece of their pie. They had done went across seas and tried to start doing that also. They did probably attempt to bring African people over here, but they couldn't do so. Just like they couldn't make ground with us because they was fighting with us over here. A lot of the explorations of Africa began in the 18th century. Well, actually in the 19th century, so to say, began in the 1800s. These people, the missionary people, went out, and that's what they would do. They would go out and they would try to go out and find people, and that's how they basically attacked us, you know. That's how they was able to infiltrate our people. They used the Bible. Now, I talk about the Bible a lot because of the fact that, you know, I don't care what nobody say, man. When you go into it and you do the research on it, you're going to see that it's heavy influence. They wrote the Bible based off of what they knew about us. Their whole interpretation of what they got off the Old Testament of the Bible. Now, Christianity is their version. That's what they brought to us. The Old Testament is what we was doing. The Old Testament is what we told them, what they learned from us. They missionaries. Go look at all these people. I mean, when you look at it, man, the shit lines up. Every single thing lines up. These missionary people are the same people who educated us. They only got the reason to educate us because they infiltrated us through the church. They infiltrated us spiritually first. That's the reason why they was able to get to us. Now, I ain't gonna get back. I ain't gonna get too far into that right now. I want to get back on to this Pan-African shit, man, because every single thing has a source, man. When you go back to the source of everything, and the source of his schooling was from a missionary. The source of W.E.B. Du Bois, which is the father of all Pan-Africanism, comes from a Christian missionary. All of his knowledge and education comes from their political views. See, it's all about politics. And when you got social and economic values to worry about, our people have been strong. Like it was saying earlier about Booker T. You know, Booker T had been educated to an extent by the same missionaries. Because at this point in time, man, you will see they mixed. They had done divided the Negro from the Indian. All right. Because at first, you know, it was basically Negroes. That's who it was. And they created a class called the Indian. In which, well, first off, they called us Indians. All right. And we was Negroes. We was Indian Negroes. All right. They created a subclass and they separated us. And they made they people be Indian in order to give them entitlement to the land so they can remove us off of it by doing this bullshit that they've been doing. It's psychological, political, politics. That's all politics is. Now, as far as us being social and economical, man, we've been here. We've been working. We've been the working force. We've always had the land. We've always worked the land. We've always been the people to come up with everything, you know. But they have just recently taken this power. Now, if y'all been following along and you doing your own research, you already know that the Europeans, the white Europeans, the ones that's in power now, they just got their power. They didn't have their power in the 1700s like they do today. In 1776, they just gained their independence. They had just now finally got some land that they can stand on their own. So they started moving down to us. It went to the 1830s, 1840s, 1850s, and 1860s that they really started conquering our people. Our people became conquered, and we became captives. And these missionaries, their whole group was to re-educate us. Because the thing about it is they couldn't fight us. They tried to fight us and had been fighting us, but they couldn't beat us. What they found to be successful was to infiltrate our people using their knowledge of our people. And they doing that all the time. Now they have erased that knowledge and supplemented it with something different, which is this out of Africa theory. You know, man, when y'all do real research, you get real answers. When you ask questions, you're going to get answers, you know. But I'm going to continue on in a second. I want to hit y'all with one more topic before we go.
Pseudoscience is a claim, belief, or practice presented as scientific, but which does not adhere to the scientific method. A field, practice, or body of knowledge can reasonably be called pseudoscientific when it is presented as consistent with the norms of scientific research, but it demonstrably fails to meet these norms. Pseudoscience is often characterized by the following: contradictory, exaggerated or unprovable claims, over-reliance on confirmation rather than rigorous attempts at refutation, lack of openness to evaluation by other experts in the field, and absence of systematic practices when rationally developing theories. The term pseudoscience is often considered pejorative because it suggests something is being inaccurately or even deceptively portrayed as science. Accordingly, those labeled as practicing or advocating pseudoscience often dispute the characterization. Science is distinguishable from revelation, theology, or spirituality in that it offers insight into the physical world obtained by empirical research and testing. Commonly held beliefs in popular science may not meet the criteria of science. Pop science may blur the divide between science and pseudoscience among the general public, and may also involve science fiction. Pseudoscientific beliefs are widespread, even among science teachers and newspaper editors. The demarcation between science and pseudoscience has philosophical and scientific implications. Differentiating science from pseudoscience has practical implications in the case of healthcare, expert testimony, environmental policies, and science education. Distinguishing scientific facts and theories from pseudoscientific beliefs such as those found in astrology, alchemy, medical quackery, occult beliefs, and creation science combined with scientific concepts, is part of science education and scientific literacy.
what's going on YouTube? Welcome back to the Thomas Gallery, and I'm just, chilling outside, just enjoying this weather. But I want to talk to you about something that I think about a lot. It's science related, and that is pseudoscience. Now, people probably hear that term a lot, pseudoscience, what is pseudoscience, all that stuff, but I don't think a lot of people actually understand what makes something pseudoscience, which is pseudo altogether. Well, for one, the word pseudo, the word pseudo comes from the Greek word meaning false or fake. And it particularly relates to the mind, because in the Greek language, anytime you see the two letters PS put together, like makes the S sound, the S sound, PS, like psychology, psychosis, psychic, and it has a PH in it, it's referring to the brain, the mind, okay? Referring to the brain or mind. So when someone says pseudo and it has a PSEUDO, it's referring to something false of the mind. Okay? So pseudoscience. And of course science comes from the Latin scientia, meaning knowledge. So false knowledge. And the thing is, a lot of people will call something pseudoscience, but don't really understand why it is considered pseudoscience.
Alright, y'all. I'm about to get ready to wrap this up, man. I appreciate y'all for watching the video. Appreciate y'all for subscribing to the channel. Appreciate y'all for being involved, man, and having the sense to care, to actually want to get information, man. I hope y'all understood exactly what I'm trying to portray in this video, and just basically show you, man, that everything has a source. All of this Pan-African shit, it has a source. People don't want to go to the source, because once they do, they understand that their source comes from the people who want them to think opposite. They want you to think that you come from Africa. You know, so this Pan-African movement, man, it ain't nothing but a product of the Protestant church. That's all it really is. The Protestant Christian church, the Christian pastors, and colonism. That's all it really is. Now, see, this is war. People want to sit here and get all political. They want to get all emotional. But you got to understand, these people are at war with you, and they have been. There's a war against you. You are the indigenous person. Even though you're being classified as something else, you are still the indigenous person by natural rights, by natural laws. You are the indigenous person. So they are out here, and there's a war against you. It's never been annulled. That war has never ended. The war against the indigenous person started in the 1700s, and it has never ceased. Since they first got a piece of our pie, they wanted the whole slice. They want the whole cake. They want everything. And they're not going to stop until they get that. So they use a lot of different shit in order to try to get you up off of your throne. But this is our house. This is our home. We're not going nowhere. We've been here for a very long time. The evidence is everywhere. And I just wanted to use this little clip about pseudoscience, man, because that's something that I've seen even amongst our own indigenous people. You know, we don't understand how to decipher information. Now, this is the #1 tool that these Pan-African pimps will try to use. They'll try to use this pseudoscience and this accepted theories of the world instead of actually using real, tangible, touchable evidence and proof. Because when you get to dealing with that, that's when you're standing on our ground, and that's when it's solid. But when you base everything off of theories, it's going to crumble. It's very easy to go back to the source. When you go back to the source of their power and understand where they get their knowledge from, now, a lot of our people don't seem to understand that we have been indoctrinated. Every single one of us have been institutionalized at some point in time in our life. If you went to school, you watch TV, you being institutionalized. You got to understand that these people spend millions and billions of dollars. And it's not real money, but they spend this money that they call money in order to keep you disillusioned. Because guess what? They selling your ignorance. They selling your ignorance into this society. Because it's a capitalistic society. That means anybody who's got any type of influence can come in and gain power. Now, it's not all about money. The money is the trade for you to do work. These people out here, they making money off of you. So while you sitting here running, chasing these dollars, you are the dollar. You got to understand exactly who you are. You got to understand exactly what you are. Now, see, I'm sorry for getting off a little off subject, man. I just want to add that in. But basically, We have got to understand real shit from fake shit. Our people don't understand. We don't want to go back in and analyze information, you know. I got into it with one of our indigenous sisters not too long ago, just basically trying to break it down to her about carbon dating and stuff like that. And it hurt me to see that how our people respond to getting critical information and doing critical thinking, you know. It's not just those Pan-African pimps, because pseudoscience is affecting us too. I've seen our people using DNA things. Now see, this is how this shit will work. They know DNA is false. So now they gonna go out here and give you all this DNA evidence in order for you to support it, so that they can make you look like a fool when they tell you how fucking wrong DNA is. Also with carbon dating. So when you go out here and you go to looking into these people that's talking about Earth being millions and billions of years old, that's pseudoscience. You got to understand the source. Everything has a source. Everything has an explanation. If it cannot be explained, it is a theory. So things that can be explained, they will be explained. They have a lot of different ways to do so. You're not going to explain one thing based with just one testimony. That's why it's called comparative research. When you do comparative research and comparative studies, you start getting clear pictures. You know, I don't take no word of one person. I don't take no word of two people. I mean, it takes a lot. The consistencies will always prevail, you know. There's no inconsistencies in the truth. A lot of people get mad with me when we discuss things. That's because I base every single thing that I learn off of empirical science, off of things that can be proven. So me going out here telling folks that we are Indians, I don't do that because somebody else made pictures of whatever. No, there's plenty of evidence that shows who we are. It's indebted through our culture, our language, our hair. Everything that we do is proven. These people know who we are. They don't even try to act like they don't know. But it's us that don't know, because we listen to them. We allow them to tell us who we are. We allow them to say, hey, we come up with this new shit that we making up that y'all keep believing. We got some new shit for you. So every single time, like, there's only so much information that you can learn. You can only tell a story so many times until you start telling a lie. All right. Now, I love doing history, but there's only so much history that we can take. There's only so far that we can go. These Pan-African people, they being paid in order to keep us in a loop, to keep us in the same loop, arguing and bickering over the same shit that has never been proven and can't be proven, instead of just being 100% with each other and saying, hey, we got a problem. We need to fix it. Because it come down to, man, and it's sad to say, but we are our biggest enemy. It's not these Pan-African people, because sometimes, you know, they are. I ain't gonna lie, because they are, you know, the Pan-African people, but sometimes it's our own people. You know, my bad, I said that wrong. It is these Pan-African people. It's not these European people that's out here lying. They've done their work. We doing it for them now. They've done their work, and then they go out here and do real work. And then they'll go back there behind themselves and debunk every fucking thing they did. But yet they'll put it out to you about evolution and space and all this other shit. And you'll just be like, oh, okay, yeah, I accept that. You know, a lot of these people that talk about 50,000 years old, they don't understand that they bash Darwin for talking about we from Africa, but don't understand that that's the reason why he said we was from Africa, because of these 50 and 60,000 years old. I'm sorry, y'all. My bad. But basically, man, you know, it's a lot of different things that we as people gotta do on our own, man. You know. Hopefully, man, I'm sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought on that, but I'm gonna let y'all go, man. Hopefully, y'all like the video. Y'all share it. Y'all get some, and I hope y'all learn something, man. You know, because we really got serious work to do, man. We ain't got time to play no more. We don't have time to sit back and politic. And I just want to put this out there too, man. You know, I see a lot of our people are waking up, but it seems as if some of our people might be taking this knowledge and using it for success, using it for admiration or whatever, man. You know, I could give a damn what y'all think about me, because at the end of the day, I'm only here to tell the truth. If you don't like it, I don't give a fuck. At the end of the day, you got to understand, man, that the truth don't tell lies. I don't have time for that. I don't, you know, I don't care about what your feelings are, because that's what got us into these positions based off of somebody else's feelings. Instead of it being about what it's about, and us being out here surviving, we getting emotional. We're allowing these people to destroy us. And I'm not gonna be destroyed. I'm not gonna give up. I'm not gonna stop fighting. With that being said, man, I appreciate everything that y'all do. I appreciate it very much, man. I'm as busy as I can be. I'm trying to do what I can do, man. I had to take a little bit of time to get myself together, collect my thoughts, but I'm back at it, man. I'm ready to go ahead and move forward because we got to do what we got to do. I cannot take it for us people just being stagnant. You know, my wheels are rolling. I can't sit here and just wait. So I pray y'all, man. I hope and pray that y'all will get, and don't get mad because I say pray, man, because prayer ain't nothing wrong with prayer, you know. Prayer without action is a fucking fool. Now, you can pray all day, but until you take your action, then nothing gonna come to you, you know. But God bless y'all, man. I'll see y'all next time, and thanks again.